man where the pain was, and the man said the pain is in his right hip. Jack asked him to speak to the pain, and he said, if you spoke to the pain or any painful scenario in your life right now, what would you say? And the man started speaking to his boss. Just came out of him. I don't like the way you work, this is a bad job, you're not treating me fairly, so on and so forth. And so after the seminar, Jack kept in touch with him. 2 days later, the man left his job. Told Jack that the pain disappeared. So if you're living around people who are like angry every day,
yeah,
maybe it's not that you're aging, maybe you're just living in the wrong house.
Yeah.
You should go out for like 3 hours a day.
Yeah. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have a very special guest who is Zephyr, who is a Reiki practitioner. So in today's episode, we want to talk about how do you transition yourself from middle age to aging, and what are the tips or common struggles or viewer may be struggling with.
For having me. My name is Zephyr. I'm a Reiki healing practitioner, among other things, also a life and success coach and a body transformation coach. And I also release music, and I love nature.
Today, Zephyr will share with us how you can transition your mental well-being, from middle age to aging.
Yeah.
So a lot of people who are probably in their 50s or 60s, they are at this point realizing, my body is not as strong as I was before. There's a lot of things that I'm not able to do.
Yeah.
And all my friends are getting all these chronic illness like diabetes, high blood pressures, or some of them passed away due to cancer. Some of the people might have this misconception of, is aging just your body break down? How can I have a graceful aging? How can I transition myself to have better quality of living during my retirement years? Yeah. So for that, is there any tips you can give to this group of people?
Okay, so let's start with what we spoke about earlier, which is if we observe with a neutral lens, right? There are old people or older people or aging people who actually live very happy lives. And then there are older, aging, and more senior people who live very miserable lives.
Yeah.
So if we're just looking at that scientifically purely, that basically shows us immediately as a conclusion that it's not the old part necessarily that's, making your life miserable. It could be something else.
But how do you identify, if a person, let's say, who is in their 50s, maybe is a grandma already, she in the past, I take care of my children, 3 of them, and I work, have all this energy, but now even one grandson, I'm having problems.
Right.
So in their mind, it'd be obviously the confidence will be there. It's is this what aging is gonna be? I'm just gonna be angry, wrinkly, weak. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely a different life stage. And I would urge everyone to take stock, and anybody facing this, to first look at 3 areas, which is their mind, their body, and their spirit. And see how they are doing in all these 3 areas. One of the key ones, which is a bit of a surprising one, maybe we'll go into that first if that's okay, about unresolved traumas and things.
Yeah.
So I believe that there is some link between anything you're holding on to in your life, any past mistakes, regret, anger, confusion, loss, people died, and so on. It has a physical manifestation also. So there was this one time, there was this author, Jack Canfield, and he was doing a seminar, and he spoke about this in his book. And so in the seminar, he asked somebody who has a chronic pain to raise their hand. And one man raised his hand, and he asked the man where the pain was. And the man said the pain is in his right hip joint. And Jack asked him to speak to the pain. And he said, if you spoke to the pain or any painful scenario in your life right now, what would you say? And the man started speaking to his boss, just came out of him.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't like the way you work, this is a bad job, you're not treating me fairly, so on and so forth. And so after the seminar, Jack kept in touch with him. 2 days later, the man left his job, and he told Jack that the pain disappeared. There could be many things in your life, especially if someone's aging and aging badly, the first thing I would go to is mental health and unresolved traumas and conflicts and things like that. Are you waking up every day and looking at the flowers and going like, oh wow, this is a beautiful life? Are you going, oh my God, what is happening? So if you're in the oh my God, what is happening phase, then we basically can first try to look at our past traumas.
Okay.
And to put that simply, what that means is there anyone in your life you've not forgiven yet? Any painful scenarios you keep thinking about? Any people you really hate, or in your mind you're like, this is a bad human, I don't want to see them?
Okay.
So I know a lot of Western folk, and even me sometimes, we talk about boundaries and it's like, oh, it's fine to not see this person ever again. Yeah, it's fine. But what is not fine is if you have not forgiven them, you are still holding on to some pain because you're giving it attention and energy.
Yes.
And that drains you, and that has to leave. And you have to take your energy back. In spirituality, we call that like cord cutting. So you need to cut the cords with that person peacefully. So there are many meditations you can find online. One good one is called the 6-phase meditation by Vishen Lakhiani. He's the CEO of this company called Mind Valley. So there's one part of that meditation where they talk about forgiveness every day. So you forgive someone. And if it's a big incident, the same person every day in your meditation until it's forgiven.
Same person every day you do the forgiveness.
Yes, until you are fully free of that.
So someone who maybe have grandchildren, so like in-laws, daughter-in-law, son-in-law, sometimes can be very sticky situations.
Right.
But as someone who is like an older parent, I just can't stand my daughter-in-law. Oh my God. There's a like whole bunch of scenarios in your head.
Yeah.
Like how the person gonna find the way to resolve that trauma.
So first, if they're doing it for themselves, they can do what a practitioner would do. So as a life coach, I would ask them first, as a counselor, I would ask them, let's start with the simple things, which is, what do you not like about them? And usually it's things they did, right? Nobody says, I don't like their makeup. Well, some do. There's very strange ones. But mostly it's like, I didn't like this that they did, that they did, that they did. So you start at the incidents. One good way to forgive is to see it from their perspective. Put yourself in their shoes. Usually once a human understands that we're all human, the forgiveness is just very quick. So usually when you hate someone is because you haven't yet seen it from their perspective. And imagine if you were in their situation. And also, I like to bring in a bit of science. There's 1,000 possibilities in every incident.
Yeah.
And so especially for Asian people, or maybe I shouldn't generalize, but the Asian people that I've met in my life at least, which is mostly my parents and their generation and their clique, it's all like...
Auntie and uncle.
Yeah, it's all like, well, it was supposed to be that way. And I was like, what do you mean even? Because there's like 1,000 ways. I could have put the glass here, I could have put the glass there, I could have put the chopsticks here. How do you know that if my kid was banging on the table, which you consider rude in the restaurant, how do you know that the rest of the people in the restaurant weren't actually bored that evening and actually wanted to start a music party in the restaurant, and they actually would have smiled and joined up? How do you know? You don't know. Like, stop dictating the future. That's the problem, is when people have a very fixed mindset, and that usually leads to pain.
Would that be a bit difficult for elderly, like something, because in your practice, well, I see a lot of elderly, sometimes we'll give them recommendations like, hey, maybe you should change a few things in your life that would significantly improve your function. But the common feedback that I get from them is that I'm already getting old. I'm like, my time here is very limited. I just don't want to be bothered with it. And how you convince them otherwise?
So there's a saying that I really like, which is that if you don't wake up in the morning excited to jump out of bed, you don't have enough goals. Okay, so if a person's going like, oh, I'm old, they basically are not looking forward to anything in life. So they need to start looking forward to things in life. So how I start them on that path is, because you see, if we go back in history, a lot of these people, like this is 2023, and you're talking about old people, which means they lived over the last 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years, which means they probably saw a world war. They probably went through a bit of the Industrial Revolution effects, which is everybody slave and work hard, right? So suddenly their work is taken away, it's over. Their kids are grown up, that's over. And they're like, okay, so now what? Because they've not been allowed to dream or do anything that they like. So where I start them off is, if I gave you $1 billion now, everything is sorted, your health is sorted, what would you do?
Okay.
And so somebody goes like, oh, I would go and take photographs in Venice.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's start there.
Yeah.
Go buy a camera.
Yeah.
Let's start that. So when they wake up looking forward to something, their life suddenly gets a bit spiced up. And when you have something to look forward to, you automatically try, and you're slightly more open to suggestions and ideas because your mind is now opening up and you're doing new things. So it's a slow process, definitely, with the older people, and it's very hard to change them.
Yeah.
So only if they believe it are they gonna do it. Yeah. So even my dad, for example, like for the last 2-3 years, he kept saying, "We're at the end of our life now. We're at the end." I was like, "You're 62.
You still have quite a far way to
Yeah,
go.
there's people living to 120 if they want to. Like,
you're halfway there.
so what I realized is he actually wanted to probably quit his job or retire.
Okay.
And now that we are talking about maybe him taking a break, or actually he had to take a break because his eyes had some issue, and he's done his own a little bit of mental healing and all these. Now he stopped saying that. Now he's like, oh, what can I do? Can I? Because last time he wanted to like take photos of like attractive women as a photographer, and my mom was like, no. So he kind of pushed that dream to the side. So now, like, I don't know what he's gonna do, but he was also a chef.
Okay.
Yeah, so I feel like if you try something interesting, I believe if an old person is doing it right, then they are just doing it like a kid, super exuberant and joyful about everything.
Well, that would be a totally different mindset. Like, imagine you are in your 60s, 70s, be like every day wake up, oh my gosh, today is full of possibilities and exploration and that, rather than someone who is like, oh, my back hurts.
Yeah.
All my friends are in hospital doing all these type of tests and treatments. Like
actually stay alive longer.
Creative a little.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate that?
Yeah. So recently I met an author from India. We met on LinkedIn, and then he came down here and we had a meetup, and now he's working with the government to try and create a movie about a collaboration between Singapore and India. He was a writer for like so many years. So what he did was, in India, he wrote his own books, bought a printing press, printed his books, took those books to street sellers and gave it out on every corner and made profits.
Oh.
And he was telling me like, and he's very creative. I mean, at this age, he's been like trying to make a movie. And he's like, yeah, all my friends, most of them died already.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, but I'm here. I'm just like looking around, like, you know. So it's always the creative people have not enough time in their lives. I definitely feel that for myself as well.
Yeah.
It's like if people tell me like, oh, you're gonna die at 70, I'm like, huh, 70? But I planned until like 100. Like I have so many things to do. But people who are not creative, they're like, oh my God, still another 20 years to live. What am I gonna do with my life? Blah blah blah. But yeah, creativity helps.
Creativity helps.
Yeah.
How do they explore that creativities? Like maybe for someone who is 65 and 75, they have this, some of them have like family obligations. Some people are a caretaker, for their relatives. Even some of the parents are still alive. If you talk about someone who's in their 50s. So their life is kind of like occupied with these, I guess, family attachment obligations. Like how can they find that balance to put themselves first?
It depends on which country you live in. So some countries like Singapore, we have all these community events that you can join. And if you're internet savvy, you can use Facebook. If they're watching this video, they're probably internet savvy. Okay, so if you have a computer, and if you really, really like, oh, I really have no time, I have 10 minutes a day. Buy a drawing block and buy like 5 colored pens and start drawing. Just start somewhere. Start playing drums. Singing is a good one where you don't need much equipment. Yeah. And there's so many online courses where you can buy and start learning. Some of the courses that I buy, because I buy a lot, there's 60, 70-year-olds in there. Like, oh, I'm learning how to make YouTube videos, and I'm learning how to sing, and I'm starting a business. Because the guy who started KFC was 55.
Really?
Yeah. That's what I read somewhere.
Really?
50 something for sure. I remember the 5 number.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I guess nothing is too late, right?
So I mean, really depends.
So what about someone who is, struggling with chronic pain, like because arthritis kick in, like the daily function become more difficult as a Reiki practitioner, what kind of tips they can do, like implementing today with the minimum requirement, they can try this, perhaps to change their body conditions.
Along with all the work you do, like being a chiropractor, or let's say someone's a physiotherapist or someone's a personal trainer, I believe also like self-maintenance is very important. So I feel like nature is a great healer. There's two sides of things a person can do for their like chronic pain. I feel like one of them, along with the traumas thing that we spoke about, thing called earthing and grounding. Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah, I thought it's people in California are super into this.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So the concept is like you take off your shoes and your socks and everything, and barefoot you go out into nature and you touch your feet directly to the grass. Okay, so you touch your feet to the grass.
Okay.
And so your skin, it conducts electricity. A lot of the inflammation in our body that causes chronic pain, a lot of things are linked to inflammation.
Yeah.
So what causes inflammation, it's believed, are these molecules called free radicals, which basically are missing an electron. And so they're like, put it simply, they're like bouncing around everywhere, destroying things inside your body. So the earth has a lot of free electrons because it's a huge object. And just like we take all our devices and we have wires that go into the earth, and it grounds the device, is the exact same concept of taking the electrons in. We have forgotten to ground our own body. As our bodies are way more complex than these machines.
Yeah.
And the amount of crap we put inside every day, it's like how many chemicals are there all over the body. Our body conducts the electrons, and the electrons go up into the body and they attach to the free radicals and neutralize them. And so there are machines that people have hooked up to, people they're experimenting on. And you can observe the inflammation, like the whole chart is red and then becomes green. It sort of really goes down in like 20 to 30. But 5 minutes is enough if you have 5 minutes.
Okay.
So they did experiments with grounding, and then they started creating products, grounding beds, grounding shoes.
So we saw a certain thing on the market, like this magnet necklace, like free iron bracelets. Sometimes like iron beds. Is it something along that way?
I'm not sure about those, but the beds I'm talking about is just like it has a wire attached that goes out of your house in a country where you have a landed property, out of the window and into the ground. So literally grounding you, like you're grounding your TV. They have made some shoes, I believe, which are like leather, or I wouldn't advocate killing animals, but there are materials that are not rubber or plastic. And those, even when you're walking on the pavement or in grass,
like a vibrant, the barefoot running shoes?
Yeah, so these are barefoot shoes, for example.
Yeah.
But the problem is they're rubber. So these are different, a little bit different, which are like cork or leather or the yoga mat material or something, which also apparently conducts. But so that's like an added benefit, but best I believe is take out your shoes,
which is free.
Which is free, exactly. And even if you stay in like a high rise, like you were saying earlier, just take the lift down. Sometimes people are full of excuses. So just go to a park or a beach, and you can even read a book on a new hobby, and that adds to the creativity side. And at the same time you're grounding. They did experiments where people came in with like 20 years of not being able to move their hand, and after 30 minutes of sitting in a grounding chair, which had wires going straight into the earth and touching their skin to the chair, their hands started moving, and they were all like shocked. They were like, what just happened? So that's one good way to take away inflammation, pain. Another thing on the physical side, chronic pain, would be, if they can manage it, then stretching. So stretching actually elongates the ligaments, and as I was reading for my fitness course like 3 years ago, I realized like I didn't know that tendons and ligaments can actually be shaped by stretching.
Yeah, it's very flexible.
Feel good. And your body can move. And are you moving your body for 30 minutes a day? So if you're sitting in a chair all day and going, I'm getting old, yeah, you are, but it's because you're lazy, not because you're getting old. Because there's like 60-year-old bodybuilders.
Yeah,
so how do you explain that?
Yeah.
So how do you explain that?
Yeah.
So it's you. So it starts with you. So there's this success book I read, and the first chapter is 100% responsibility for your life when you have the mental traumas.
Yes.
Because you feel like a victim.
Yeah.
So it's all linked.
Yeah.
So you need to start like chipping away at different areas.
Okay. So summarize everything we just talked about it. So a person who is struggling this aging mindset. So the best way is, number one, to obviously you have to be open that things are different now. Like you are in a different season of your life now. You have to
Exactly.
accept that reality.
Yeah.
Then is to identify those unsolved traumas in life.
Yes,
And
yes.
starting either forgiving the person or work on themselves
Yeah.
to let go of
Yeah.
that. Physically, and you're talking about grounding yourself, earthling, connecting yourself to the nature.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess earth is also a big magnet,
Yeah.
so you'll get rid of the free radical, decrease the inflammations
Yeah.
from the bodies.
That's right.
That will give you a better, I guess, physical physiologies overall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, on the spiritual side, do people meditate?
Yes.
Yes. Do you practice gratefulness? Connect, because if you go into spirituality, you can go for hours and years and go deeper and deeper, deeper and deeper, connect with energy, understand the energy structures around us in other realms, understand your energy body, you know, like understand how my energy is affecting you, your energy is affecting me.
Yeah.
Maybe the house they're living in could have negative energies. Maybe the people they're living around. There's this one saying was a bit of a joke, which I go to therapy because of all the other people in my life who won't. Yeah. So who are you living around? So if you're living around people who are like angry every day,
Yeah.
maybe it's not that you're aging, maybe you're just living in the wrong house.
Yeah.
You should go out for like 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
So, you know, spirituality is a big one.
Thank you so much for your
Yeah.
information.
Welcome.
Yeah, for everyone who is watching, I have those information down the link description. You have further questions, please do explore to get connected with him. And you know, we're here to help everyone to transition to grateful aging. So life is short, but you still can enjoy it, right? Thank you so much for watching. Please making sure you like, share, and subscribe to our channels. And thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
And we'll see you next time.